Howdy folks, Greyhawk 4x4 coming at you again, your resident vintage gamer. Today's video, we're going to talk about my latest additions to the awesome game collection that you see behind me. Without further ado, let's go. Okay, so let me give you the backstory. So yesterday, I had to go to my Pathfinder game in the afternoon, and I decided to go to a couple game stores beforehand and just check in and see if they had any old out-of-print stuff, because as you know, that's what I like to collect. So went to a couple of them. The first one didn't have much. Decided to have some lunch, and then went over to another one known as Fongo Bongo Games here in Utah. And it had turned out that they were just finishing up what they call their once-a-year in-game yard sale event, where they allow people to come in and bring their stuff that they want to sell or trade. And they got tables, of course, for gaming, but they just let them use the tables for their yard sale type deal. And unfortunately, they were just finishing it up. I didn't know anything about it, but there was a couple of guys that were left in there, and they didn't really have the guys that were left didn't really have any old RPG stuff, but they did have some older board game stuff, and none of it was really was really up my alley that I was interested in. However, the one guy said, and his name was Kent. He said, well, I got these here. He had one box there sitting there. He goes, I was just going to take those and take them to after this and just take them to DI, which is short for Desert Industries, which is, to most of you that aren't in Utah, it wouldn't mean anything to you. But just imagine like the Salvation Army. So he was going to take them there and just donate them. And he said, but if you want them, you can have them. And, if you want to take them for your collection at your game room there. And I said, well, sure, I'll give them a good home, There might be nights where we don't have enough people to play our regular D&D campaign or whatever, and we may just want to break out a couple board games and do that for the night. So I said, they'll definitely won't go to waste. So these are what I got out of that haul. And again, these were all given to me, so I'm much appreciated, and so will the other people that are in my group here that when we get around to playing these. So to start this off, this is a board game called Saratoga 1777, Burgoyne versus Gates, and I'm also kind of a buff on the Revolutionary War. So this one for sure is definitely up my alley. I really like this one. It is basically a recreation of the Battle of Saratoga. And Burgoyne versus Gates refers to the two generals. The British general was General Burgoyne, and our general, the American general, was Antonio Gates. So looking forward to playing that for sure. The next one, and the only way I can describe this one, I haven't played it, of course, but just from the box, it looks like the board game version of Tetris. Now, I have no idea which came first, but if you look at those pieces up here, if that doesn't look like Tetris, I don't know what it looks like. It looks like Tetris to me. So, anyway, that's what it struck me as. So when I get around to playing it or whatever, we'll see. It'd be interesting to see. The next one is called Shogi, the strategy game with a surprise twist. That's what it looks like. And here's a picture of the game board on the back. And basically, what this one looks like, to me, is it looks like a combination of checkers, and here's the game pieces, and almost like Mahjong. because you put the pieces together and so forth. So to me, it looks like it has elements of those two things. I could be wrong, but just that's my first impression. And that isn't a bad thing. Just that's what I think, what it came to mind when I saw it. And then that leads us to the last three, which are all what you would basically call bookcase games. And for you old timers out there, you know what I'm talking about. You're talking about Avalon Hill. They were called the bookcase games, and because they sat on your bookcase like this, and you could have a whole bunch of them, in a row. And by my estimation, I did a count. Avalon Hill produced about 229 bookcase games since whenever they started in the 70s, I believe it was. Those are just rough numbers that I came up with. They did a lot of games. So, but their meat and potatoes that they were famous for was war games, war simulation games. And this is no exception. This is the game of France 1940, German Blitzkrieg in the West, and it, of course, is a war game. You probably won't be able to see that too well, but of course it's got a map that it's your game board. And so I got that one. Another one, which is also, this one is Aero Combat, but it's also World War II. And it's called Luftwaffe, the famous German Air Force. And again, it is another bookcase game by Avalon Hill. And so there's, like I said, they made over 200 games. They did aerial combat, naval combat, tank combat, troop combat. They did it all. So, and then the last one, this one's not by Avalon Hill. This is, but it is called a bookshelf game. They obviously couldn't call it bookcase because it's a different company. But this one is by 3M brand. It's 3M, and this one is called Feudal. And what is kind of cool about here? There's a picture on the back too. It shows you the game board and everything. What is really cool about this one is it's basically like a combination of chess and with just a little bit more complexity to it, But you get all of these cool little minis in here for your game board. And that probably won't show up very well. That's a white one. Let me get a dark one here. So you get these. And they have little nubs on the back there, of course, to stick them into there's holes in the game board to stick them to. But if you were not interested in playing this game, there's dozens of these things in there. You could still use them in like a D&D game or Pathfinder game for if you had like some type of a big battle going and you needed to represent a lot of different units and things like that. You could just take some wire cutters and nip off that little, and then you'd have a bunch of minis to use right there. So I would never do that because I'm a collector and I want to keep things as they originally were. But I just thought that would be, for someone who had no interest in playing this actual game, could use them for that. So that was the haul. I am extremely thankful to Mr. Kent. Maybe at some point, if he decides to come over and we do some wargaming on the table back there, maybe I'll get some quick video of it so I can post it, and maybe we'll play some of these actual games right here. So, anyway, I thought that was an interesting happenstance from the weekend. Hope your weekend's going well, and we will catch you guys on the flip side.